Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move a call of the Senate.
A call of the Senate has been moved and properly sustained. Will the sergeants please close the doors, allow no senators to leave, and return all those who are absent to the chamber?
For what?
Hey, that was a little aggressive on the bottom.
You woke him up.
Did you talk to Excel or something before you did? Move to adjourn. Oh, we could do that too. No, you don't. He was here once. You don't? Actually, that's what we did last year. I don't remember. So how many we got? What are we doing?
Well, first I have to read all of this, and then we can get to this. It's be a doozy.
We're special orders, obviously. Oh, did we finish second? No, we did not. We're going back to I did buy a plane ticket. 7 Korean miles.
Bold move. Yeah. I like it. It's for you.
I haven't done one this night. Okay. What are you gonna do? There used to be more fun in the house. We would have asked them.
Mr. Carpenter, will you please call the roll?
Senators Bridges, Cook, Coram, Court, Crowder, Danielson, Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hill, Heisey, Holbert, Lee, Lundeen, Marble, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Tate, Todd, Williams, Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger,
Just missing Bridges. Senator Bridges. Everyone keeps saying that. But
Bridges,
Carpenter.
Mr. President.
Here. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the call be raised.
The motion is to raise the call. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the call is raised. Memorandums.
Memorandum report from the Senate and House Committees on Delayed Bills. Pursuant to General Rule 23C, the Senate and House Committees on Delayed Bills acting jointly extend the following deadline for Senate Bill 246 concerning the financing of public schools, the Monday, April 22nd deadline, the 109th legislative day for final passage, including the Conference Committee report for any bill prescribing all or substantial portion of the total funding for public schools pursuant to the Public School Finance Act of 1994, Article 54, Title 22, Colorado Revised Statutes extended until Friday, May 3rd. 2019, the 120th legislative day. This memorandum shall be printed in the Journal of each House as required by General Rule 23. Senator Garcia, President of the Senate, Representative Beckert, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Senator Fenberg, Senate Majority Leader, Representative Garnett, House Majority Leader, Senator Holbert, Senate Minority Leader, Representative Neville, House Minority Leader. Executive Committee, the Legislative Council, Senate Committee on Delayed Bills, House Committee on Delayed Bills, pursuant to General Rule 23C, the House and Senate Committees on Delayed Bills do hereby extend the Legislative Council deadline to review, prioritize, and approve written requests for interim study committees from the 108th day, April 21st, 2019, to the 112th day, April 25th, 2019, the 72nd legislative session of the Colorado General Assembly. President Leroy Garcia, Chair. Speaker Casey Becker, Vice Chair. Senator Stephen Fenberg, Representative Alec Garnett, Senator Chris Holbert, Representative Patrick Neville.
Committee reports.
April 18, 2019. The Committee on Education has had in consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments, circumstances, appointments, placed in consent calendar, confirmed members of the Colorado Student Legion Student Executive Board for terms expiring July 7, 2019. Rebecca F. Holmes of Denver, Colorado serves as a person with the community who has interest or experience in education, reappointed. Virginia King Hindern of Denver, Colorado serves as a person employed as teacher, faculty, administrator in an institution of higher education in Colorado, reappointed for terms expiring July 7, 2020. Elizabeth M. Palmquist of Denver, Colorado serves as a person with the community who has an interest or experience in education, appointed. Stephanie Flynn James, PhD, MBA of Broomfield, Colorado serves as a person employed as teaching, faculty, or administrator in an institution of higher education in Colorado, appointed. April 18, 2019, Community Education has had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Colorado School of Mines Board of Trustees for term expiring December 31st, 2022. Denise Burgess of Denver, Colorado, Democrat who is not a graduate of Colorado School of Mines, appointed. April 18, 2019, Community Education has had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Board of Governors of the Colorado State University System for terms expiring December 31st, 2022. Armando Valdez of Laura, Colorado, to serve as a member who has substantial experience in production of agriculture and serve as Democrat appointed. Russell Anthony DeSalvo III of Pueblo, Colorado to serve as Republican appointed. April 18, 2019, Community Education has had in consideration and had hearing of the following appointments, recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar confirmed. Members of the College of West Board of Directors for terms expiring July 31st, 2022. David Andrew Simon of Cherry Hills Village, Colorado appointed. Kirk Melines of Linden, Colorado appointed. April 18, 2019, Community Education after consideration and merits committee the following. House Bill 1171 be referred to the Committee on Appropriations. April 18, 2019, Committee on Education after consideration and merits committee following. House Bill 1132 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. The Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to place in consent calendar confirmed. Chief Medical Officer of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, effective immediately for term expiring at the pleasure of the Governor. Tista Escosh, MD, MPH of Denver, Colorado, appointed. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar confirmed. Member of the University of Colorado Hospital Authority Board of Directors for the 7th Congressional District, Ray Baker, for a term effective April 1st, 2018, continuing until March 31st, 2022, or until a successor is appointed by the Board of Regents. This will be Mr. Baker's second term in the Hospital Authority Board of Directors. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar confirmed. Members of the Colorado Traumatic Brain Injury Trust Fund Board for terms expiring June 30th, 2021. Teresa Marie Chase, MA and DR in Grand Junction, appointed. Kenneth Anderson Scott, MPH, PhD of Denver, Colorado, appointed. Victoria Ortega, JD of Denver, Colorado, appointed. Thomas McCaws of Fruita, Colorado, appointed. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Colorado Healthcare Affordability and Sustainability Enterprise Chase for a term expiring May 15, 2019. Brent Bowman of Denver, Colorado, serve as representative of a statewide organization of health insurance carriers on occasion by the resignation of Thomas A. Reynolds of Inglewood, Colorado, appointed. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments or recommends appointments to be placed in consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Colorado Children's Trust Fund Board, effective November 27, 2018, for terms expiring November 7, 2021. Stephanie Villafuerte, JD of Evergreen, Colorado, serve as a member with knowledge of child abuse prevention, appointed. Bridget Burnett, Society of Centennial, Colorado, serve as a member with knowledge of child abuse prevention, appointed. April 18, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources had in consideration and had hearing of following appointments, recommends appointments to place in consent calendar confirmed. Members of the State Agricultural Commission for terms expiring March 1st, 2023. Catherine Bedell of Grand Junction, Colorado, a Democrat from the 4th Agricultural District, serve as a member from the state at large, appointed. Segundo Diaz of Alamosa, Colorado, Republican from the 3rd Agricultural District, reappointed. George Whitten of Saguache, Colorado, a Democrat from the 3rd Agricultural District, serves as a member from the state at large. Appointed Colleen Pepler, Plapo, Colorado, a Democrat from the 2nd Agricultural District, serves as a member from the state at large. Appointed Brent Harrison, Palisade, Colorado, Republican from the 4th Agricultural District, reappointed. April 18, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources, Secretary Summaries Committee as following. House Bill 1202 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 18, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources, Secretary Summaries Committee as following. Senate Bill 240 be amended as follows as so amended before Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, House Bill 1267 referred to Committee to hold the favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, Senate Bill 245 be referred to Committee to hold the favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 17, 2019. Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, House Bill 1218 be postponed indefinitely. April 17, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, House Bill 1271 be postponed indefinitely. April 18, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, House Bill 1259 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 18, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, House Bill 1247 be referred to Committee to hold the favorable recommendation. April 18, 2019, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, House Bill 1037 be amended as follows as so amended be referred to Committee on Transportation and Energy with favorable recommendation. April 18, 2019. Committee on Finance, after consideration of Mayor's Committee as following. Senate Bill 236 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 18, 2019, Committee on Finance, after consideration of Mayor's Committee as following. House Bill 1090 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 18, 2019, Committee on Education, after consideration of Mayor's Committee as following. Senate Bill 246 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. April 18, 2019, Committee on Education. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, Senate Bill 007 be amended as follows as so amended be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, Senate Bill 238 be amended as follows as so amended be referred to Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. April 18, 2019, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of Mayor's Committee as following, Senate Bill 242 be referred to Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1076 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Larson, Senators Priol and Donovan, concerning updates to the Colorado Clean Indoor Air Act and in connection therewith, and removing certain exceptions and adding provisions relevant to the use of electronic smoking devices.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1230 by Representatives Singer and Melton and Senators Marble and Gonzalez, concerning marijuana hospitality establishments in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Finance.
House Bill 1234 by Representatives Valdez A. and Singer and Senators Gonzalez and Marble, concerning allowing delivery of regulated marijuana by regulated marijuana sellers in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Finance.
House Bill 1263 by Representatives Harrod and Sanders and Senators Marble and Lee, concerning changing the penalty for certain violations pursuant to the Uniform Controlled Substances Act of 2013 in connection therewith, making and reducing an appropriation.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1279 by Representatives Exum and Landgraf and Senators Lee and Heisey, concerning the use of perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1284 by Representatives Tatone and Beckman and Senators Holbert and Moreno, concerning the Board of Directors of the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District.
State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1288 by Representatives Singer and Duran, Senators Fields and Crowder, concerning increasing protections to ensure foster youth siblings maintain sibling relationships by providing foster youth siblings with certain rights and in connection therewith establishing the Foster Youth Sibling Bill of Rights.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1295 by Representatives Rich and Becker and Senators Scott and Story, concerning a requirement that the county treasurer in specified counties serve as the public trustee for the county.
State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1298 by Representative Melton and Senator Priola, concerning the use of electric motor vehicle charging stations for parking a motor vehicle.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1299 by Representatives McCluskey and Rich and Senator Donovan, concerning flexibility in the contribution rates to a local government retirement plan or system.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. General Order, second reading of bills. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we re-resolve into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order's second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will re-resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order's second reading of bills, and Senator Zenzinger will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the Title II, Senate Bill 96?
Senate Bill 96 by Senator.
Oh, excuse me. Also, the court rule is relaxed for staff as well. Now, would you please read the Title II, Senate Bill 96?
Senate Bill 96 by Senator Donovan, Representative Hanson, concerning the collection of greenhouse gas emission data to facilitate the implementation of measures that would most cost effectively allow the state to meet its greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 19-96 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 96. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the Title II? Will the clerk please read the Title II, Senate Bill 173?
Senate Bill 173 by Senators Donovan and Pedersen, Representatives Crabthorpe and Hanson, concerning the creation of the Colorado Secure Savings Plan Board to study appropriate approaches to increase the amount of retirement savings by Colorado's private sector workers.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 173 and the associated appropriations report.
To the appropriations report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The appropriations report added the appropriation.
The motion before the body is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 173, Colorado Secure Savings Plan, is a bill that we are sent here to work on when we are asked to work on big problems. And this is a big problem that is somewhat intimidating to solve. And that problem is when you look out at the status of our retirement savings across the state, it is mediocre in some areas, dismal in others, and non-existent for some. And so when we know that nearly half of Colorado's private sector workers don't have access to retirement savings plans at work, start to think about what that could mean when those folks that are now of working age reach retirement age and they have no savings at which to look at to live out their retirement years. So Senate Bill 173 proposes the creation of the Colorado Secure Savings Planning Board to study multiple approaches to how to address this issue. And the board consists of a broad group of stakeholders that have knowledge about this and also the ability to talk about the implications and the administrations of it. And they will look at 4 different possibilities: a public-private partnership to create a secure savings retirement plan, a small business marketplace plan. What happens if we just look at increasing the level of financial education and hope that people start saving themselves? Or what if we do nothing? What does that mean for the future of Colorado? This is a smart approach to solving a complex problem, and I ask for your support on 173. Thank you.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really excited to be bringing this bill for your consideration today. The Colorado Secure Savings Plan. This is our 5th year bringing this bill to look at the different options that we have to ensure that future generations have the opportunity to save for retirement and retire with dignity. It is, when I think about all of the jobs that I worked, my generation, we are offered retirement options at a much smaller rate than my parents' generation. And we know that that's the greatest opportunity that we have to actually save for retirement. So as we have our changing economy, our new sharing economy, we need to adjust to this change. We need to ensure that we have a plan that can follow people from job to job. If not, this is going to be a huge burden on our state in the future. So Really proud of this work. Thank you, Senator Donovan, for continuing to work with me on this bill. Excited to finally have the opportunity to pass it. Vote yes, Senate Bill 173.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I promise to make this quick. I had the privilege of running this bill last year with now the senator from Jefferson County, and one of the overlooked aspects of this bill that I think is incredibly important is that not only are we helping people save for retirement, which we know there is dramatic undersaving. People are not ready for retirement, which means that they are more likely to end up needing public assistance, which means taxpayers are on the hook. This helps save money for taxpayers, but very importantly, more than half of American families cannot afford an unexpected $250 expense. That means if a tire blows, if a heater goes out, any significant unexpected expense could send families spiraling into homelessness, and again, costing us taxpayer dollars. This bill creates for families a savings that means that in Colorado at least, most working folks will be able to afford an unexpected $250 expense. This is life-changing for people. This is going to help with our bottom line fiscally in this state. It is a very good thing for so many reasons, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm glad we finally get an opportunity to discuss this bill because, as you probably know, this is another business that I work intimately in, helping employers, municipalities, not-for-profit organizations create programs that help their employees save for retirement. As we heard the senator from Greenwood Village talk about savings, it is important, and a lot of people don't save. However, I do think it's also important to know that virtually any time a retirement program is put in place, one of the provisions in that plan is that it's used for retirement, that it's not used as a short-term savings plan to pay for dishwashers going out or unexpected emergencies, even in the programs created by the federal government, 401k plans, 403b plans, 457 plans, simple IRA plans. Generally speaking, the provisions in those programs only provide for withdrawals in the event of extreme hardship. So not a couple of $100s to fix a dishwasher, although it's important, that's not what these plans are designed for. In fact, these plans, generally speaking, specifically prohibit those kind of withdrawals because otherwise nobody would have any money for retirement, right? They'd be using all of this for these short-term expenses. So I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of the argument that we want to tout this as a way to save for short-term expenses. I can certainly see the logic in creating something that would help people retire. I guess everybody has got their fiscal note, and I'm hoping I have the wrong one because, as I understand that this is a study, but I'm looking at a general fund expend of $800,000 in an environment where we're talking about how do we come up with extra money for mental health? How do we come up with extra money to pay teachers? How do we come up with extra money for roads and bridges? How do we come up in the Health and Human Services Committee for extra money for helping people with substance use disorders? I don't know in my 3 years here that I've ever seen a study or a series of studies that costs $800,000. If that was to set up this program and have this program implemented and run for several years, I guess I might understand that. But I guess it would be helpful to know from the bill sponsors when you received a fiscal note back for $800,000 if this was something that we were planning on modifying or adjusting. So before I continue on my comments as far as other options that are currently already in place for folks like IRAs, would love to hear if this is something that sounds reasonable or if there's other adjustments to the fiscal note that we could expect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the fiscal note that is going to continue to move forward, but we are looking at ways that we can hopefully save money here. Any money that is left over will be sent back to the general fund. So this isn't just looking at the 4 different options here in the state on how we can ensure that future generations can save for retirement and what that looks like for the best implementation. It also creates a plan on what the implementation would look like. So this is very important information when we look at how we are going to move forward in Colorado to ensure that we're addressing our retirement crisis, that my generation is not retiring, well, not able to retire, but living in poverty as seniors with a huge burden on our state. We saw that over a 10-year period, actually investing in this will save our state $155 million. Because if we don't provide options for folks who are not offered retirement options at work, it is going to be a burden on our state later. So this is really the upfront work in making sure that we have all the information that we need to move forward next year.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all have heard me say in the Finance Committee that our job is long-term fiscal policy for the state. And as you've just heard the sponsor talk about, in the long term, if people have no savings, the state has to help them. So as far as I'm concerned, to look at long-term fiscal policy for the state, we should also be looking at long-term fiscal policy for the people of Colorado. And that's what this bill does. This bill studies how we can help the people of Colorado have a secure savings. That's what this bill does. And if we can help the people of Colorado figure out how to have long-term fiscal stability in their retirement, we are creating an incredible savings for long-term fiscal policy for the state. So helping Colorado families helps the state budget in the long term. I urge an aye vote.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So, from the fiscal note, we're going to spend between $100,000 and $200,000 to create an analysis of the effects that not increasing Coloradans' retirement savings would have on current and future state and local government expenditures. Now, I think this is really interesting. It's what the good senator was just speaking about. There's really, however, embedded in this question a huge philosophical question. If I am foolish enough not to save for my retirement, whose responsibility is that? Y'all look at me and say, knucklehead Lundin, you should be saving for your own retirement. Distributed responsibility. It becomes the responsibility of the taxpayers of Colorado if I don't save for my retirement. I think this is really an interesting question, and it lies at the heart of what this bill is about. Do we have, the state of Colorado, with our little $32 billion budget, have a responsibility to make sure that everyone is secure and safe and comfortable and visiting either Florida or California, depending upon their preference, at least once a year? Or is it the responsibility of the people who would choose to live that life in ease and comfort in their retirement or not? This is the core question that this bill begs, and it's buried inside a very expensive way of looking at this. Now, I will tell you, some of the testimony we heard elucidated the fact that the financial markets are changing dramatically, and the way financial services are provided are changing dramatically. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, certainly, a typical retirement plan would cost you 200, 300 basis points. That's 2 or 3% to put it together, to have the investments, to have the tools, the pieces inside your 401k or your IRA or your Roth IRA or whatever it is. You would be paying as much as 2 to 3%. Technology and competitiveness of the free market are driving those costs down. You can do the same thing today with 50 to 75 basis points. So less than 1%. That's happening already out there today. So the question isn't, should we spend $800,000 to figure out, are there ways to make this happen better? It's already happening better in the marketplace. The question that this bill really begs is, whose responsibility is it? Is it the people who intend to retire? Or is it the folks who are still out there working that it's their responsibility? Who should take that ownership? Do we want to shift that, distribute that elsewhere or not? And I call it out in that way because the fourth analysis is exactly this question of who's ultimately responsible. But the previous three questions are all about how are we going to create a government program to provide services more efficiently than the marketplace already can. And I'm here to tell you, we cannot. So you can spend $600,000 to get the yes-no question, can the government provide retirement services better than the free market can? 600 grand. I tell you what, I'll give you a discount bargain on that right now. I'll do that question for you right now for $400,000. The answer is no. I'll pick up my check at the end of the evening. So that's a discount on the first 3/4 of this bill. And then the last question, maybe it is worth $200,000 to answer the philosophical question, who is responsible for your retirement? Is it you? Or is it the government that's letting you down by not creating some sort of a new program that will be more expensive than the private marketplace that will force you somehow to invest in that program because then you'll be prepared to retire? I hate, because of the good intentions of this bill, to challenge it so vigorously. But it is built on a foundation of sand that is not even held together with glue. It's just held together with water. This bill is well-intended. Its desires are great. But in fact, it is, in my opinion, the responsibility of those who would retire to take advantage of the superior opportunities that exist in the free marketplace today than to stand around, wait, and hope that the government's going to somehow create a better retirement program to save you more money, or to cause you to save more money, or to compel you to save more money, because at the end of the day, that's the only way this bill will get to the solution that it seeks to find. I urge your opposition to this bill.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this isn't actually a government program. This is an idea that came out of the conservative right-wing Heritage Foundation, because the Heritage Foundation was looking at how we are going to address our retirement crisis and our changing opportunities to invest in our retirement and ensure that that did not come down to a burden on the state. So this is actually exactly what my friend and colleague was saying. This is about people taking initiative to invest in their future and ensuring that they get the best investment for the dollars that they put in. So this is not a government retirement plan. This is just ensuring that we set up a process and a board that is separate from our government, that oversees this, that are experts in the field, who are going to ensure that every dollar that they are investing, they are going to get the most out of it with a capped amount of fees. So there are retirement plans out there right now. The problem is that a lot of people don't know where to begin. They don't have the information. In an ideal world, they would have that information, that they would actually have that option at work. All this does is look at the opportunity to opt out if you choose to when you're going through signing up at your job, and then you could also increase the amount that you're putting in. But this is about individuals taking responsibility, investing in their future, and making sure that they have that option.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I am challenged by the first of the four analyses. We spoke a little bit just before about the fourth analysis that would be required under this study. The first $200,000 question that is to be asked is a detailed market and financial analysis to determine the financial feasibility and effectiveness of creating, listen here, spoiler alert, new government program coming, the Colorado Secure Savings Plan, in the form of an automatic, let's call that compulsory, enrollment payroll deduction to an individual retirement account. So it is simply saying spend 200 grand to determine if there is financial feasibility and effectiveness in creating a government program that requires people to be responsible. This is circular logic in the extreme. I would suggest that there is no way a government program is going to compete effectively with the marketplace, and yet that's the fundamental conclusion that this bill seeks. It's looking for an affirmative answer to this idea. Can we create a Colorado secure savings plan and compel people into it and thereby give them a foregone conclusion of a better life than they would get to on their own? That's not the way I would approach it. I think that there are great challenges in doing this. And I will let the bill sponsor respond if she does not perceive it to be a compulsory government program.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask your careful consideration, and I hope your no vote on Senate Bill 173. The idea that people don't have retirement savings is troubling, but the ability for people to find counseling, find expertise, find people to access people who can help them develop those resources is extensive. If a person walks into a bank or credit union and asks, do you have someone here who could help me plan my retirement? I think they would enthusiastically say, yes. If you didn't want to go to an institution like that, there are, I think, hundreds, if not thousands, of financial planners in Colorado who would say, yes, I would be happy to. That's why I exist. That's my career. In fact, I know one. Rich, if you're out there watching, I won't do any free advertising, but I know one who's never charged anything up front for his services and yet provides exceptional service in retirement planning, and it isn't dependent on employment. It isn't dependent on a relationship with a particular company. It is frustrating to me that we would even study the concept of our state government competing with the financial services sector. People, hundreds, probably thousands of them all over the state of Colorado, who are looking for new customers. If we had a program to offer encouragement, advice for consumers who do not have retirement plans to connect with a financial planner somewhere in Colorado, I might be open to that, but I still question whether that's the proper role of government. One of the early lessons I had in financial matters came from my late mother. And I think I've said here before, she was a Republican. She taught me a lot of valuable lessons. But one day she said there was one thing that she ever regretted supporting politically, and that was Social Security. Now, I realize this isn't a government savings plan, this isn't Social Security at the state level, but bear with me. She thought that when that was proposed, that it sounded like a good idea, that government would be there to help people in their older age if they weren't able to help themselves. And she realized she had regret for that earlier position when she started collecting Social Security. And she realized how much she had put into her account and how little she had in return, and that if she had gone to a private sector person, a financial planner, and invested that on her own, she would have been better off. Let's please not encourage people in Colorado to come to government for a service that they can find so readily in the private sector and which can provide very safe investments if that's the investor's desire, or higher risk investments if that is his or her desire. This is not a proper role of government. I, like the previous speaker, the senator from El Paso County, I don't point an accusatory finger at the sponsors. Not at all. I understand. People here in the legislature want to help people of Colorado, but this is not the right way for government to approach that. If we wanted to talk about some advertising program to get people to go out and find a private sector financial planner, maybe, but I still think that's not the proper role of government. And government simply cannot provide this service better than those in the private sector who exist to do this. I ask your vote, please, no on 173.
Seeing no further discussion, Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies if I have to speak more slowly than I usually do due to the late hour.
As long as the volume is commensurate.
So, when I reviewed this bill, as you know, it came to appropriations. There's an appropriations committee report. As I look at bills that come to appropriations, I always take a look to see, well, how much money are we spending? And I look at the subject first, because sometimes millions of dollars for certain things is not that much money. Well, it's a lot of money in my checkbook, but in relative terms. And then sometimes a few $1,000s is just an awful lot of money for what we're doing. And so I looked at this, and it said, in your fiscal note, it says, the bill establishes the Colorado Secure Savings Plan Board in the office of the state treasurer. Notice that, in the office of the state treasurer, our former colleague, for those of us in the House, Treasurer Dave Young, to study the feasibility of creating a retirement savings plan and other approaches to increase the amount of retirement savings by Colorado's private sector workers. So I read on down, and it said the board's required to conduct the following 4 analyses. And so I said, okay, so what we got here is a board and some studies. We see those kind of things all the time. And so I flipped through the fiscal note thinking, well, you know, I'm probably looking at $75,000, $85,000, you know, almost enough to pay the lieutenant governor her additional salary. But
let's keep it to the bill.
well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's to the bill because I'm talking about the relative amounts and what else could be spent on, this money could be spent on. In fact, this $800,000 would compensate, additional compensation for 8 lieutenant governors in the state of Colorado. But more to the point, Madam Chair, I flipped it open and I looked at it, and it's like $800,000 for 4 analyses. I said, well, that must be super duper stuff. That must be operations research sort of stuff. That must be my colleague and friend, the senator from El Paso County. He must be doing. It must be somebody like that with a doctorate and really would command a lot of money. You know, maybe $40,000 for serving the legislature kind of money. But I looked at the analyses, and I read through the first 3, and I thought, well, I don't know, but then when I got to I guess I read through the first 2. I got to the third one, and it says, an analysis of the effects that greater financial education among Colorado residents would have on increasing their retirement savings. And I thought, wow, we need to go study very specifically the effects that greater financial education for Colorado residents would have on increasing their retirement savings. Now, if you struck those words in the fiscal note that says among Colorado residents, you'd just be saying an analysis of the effects that greater financial education would have on increasing people increasing their retirement savings. Now, I bet there's a lot of research about that already. I mean, a lot. I think I probably read some stuff in the Wall Street Journal in the past year about stuff like that. So it must be that Colorado residents would be so different than the residents of Texas or New Mexico or Utah or the United States at large that we'd need to spend a couple $100,000 on that study. I'm just astounded. You know, an analysis of the effects that not increasing Coloradans' retirement savings would have on current and future state and local government expenditures. I think I read something about that in the Wall Street Journal in the past year as well. You know, what is it going to cost the government because people don't have adequate retirement savings? But we're going to find that out for Coloradans specifically. It must be different than people in Oklahoma and Utah and Montana. We're going to find that out for Colorado residents, and we're going to put out contracts for that. And we basically have broken it out so that the experts, you know, an expert is someone with a briefcase more than 100 miles from their hometown. An expert will be able to bid on that and do all this regression analysis or something. I don't know. But I do know this because I do work in the public contracting arena, that if you tell a group of potential contractors what the budget for a particular contract is, they're probably going to come pretty close to that. They'll probably spend, you know, they'll underbid the other guy by $25,000, $30,000, but they're gonna get that work. And by the way, it's not that they won't do $200,000 worth of work. You'll get the best slides you ever saw. They'll come and brief you, and they'll come and interview you, and they'll come and do some focus groups with Colorado citizens, and they'll sit around, and they'll even probably buy them sandwiches and coffee and soft drinks, and it'll all be part of the deal. And it would be $200,000 to find out that greater financial education increases people's retirement savings in general. That's a fact. We know that. I didn't need to spend $200,000. I just had a subscription to the Wall Street Journal or The Economist or Kiplinger's letter or any other. There's all sorts of things. Another thing that concerned me about this was we are creating this board in the office of the state treasurer, and I have to tell you, I was down in the treasurer's office the other day. My bill, the Revised Uniform Unclaimed Property Act, was signed, and the treasurer was there because the treasurer also in his office has the unclaimed property provision. And so Treasurer Young took us on a little tour, and I was thinking, what a great treasurer we have. He's from the party opposite mine, but nevertheless, he served on the Joint Budget Committee. He's very responsible. And so I thought when I read the legislation, since this board was going to be in his office, that he'd be doing the appointments. But that wasn't the case. The governor's going to make the appointments for a board that's in his office. And that struck me as, that was just almost disrespectful of him. I mean, we create an office in the board in the treasurer's office, and we say, but We're going to have the governor make the appointments. Well, why not have the treasurer make those appointments?
There is an amendment on the desk.
And so I've prepared an amendment.
Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L003?
Amendment L003, December 173.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you. And this amendment I've prepared, I move
Can you please-
L003.
To the amendment.
Thank you. So what this amendment does, it's a very simple thing. It changes the appointing authority for all of these board members from the governor to the treasurer, because after all, the board is in the treasurer's office, and that just seems to make more sense. Now, if I really thought about it, would expand the board, and perhaps then the majority leader and the minority leader of both chambers could make appointments, and we could have appointments all around, but I don't think that $800,000 will be enough to cover all of the extra money that we would have to pay those legislators for the extra work they would be doing to make those appointments. So we're going to stick with the treasurer. Now, this money's not going to go to the treasurer for the extra work that he'll be doing to make these appointments. This just changed the appointing authority. And so I ask for an aye vote on L003.
The motion is the adoption of L003. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and the amendment is lost. Senator Gardner.
Thank you. Well, that's very disturbing, Madam Chair, but I guess we'll have to accept it. But I think that's a reason why this bill is not a good bill. After all, we've been talking about the importance of financial education, and I don't know if you know and understand, all of you here in this chamber, how much the treasurer has the expertise in his office.
Senator Gardner, to the bill, please, and not the amendment. The amendment was lost.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I'm now telling you why I object to the bill. I'm objecting to the bill because we're not appointing the members of the board. The treasurer's not doing it. The governor's doing that, and that is one of the reasons I object to the bill now, Madam Chair. That and $800,000 for what is about an $8,000 task. So with that, Madam Chair, I ask for a no vote on Senate Bill 173 as unamended.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that is not just looking at whether or not this is a good idea and saying yes or no. This is actually implementing the base of what we need to move forward when we implement the policy. So this is an incredibly extensive amount of work. A feasibility study costs a lot of money. Actually, other states cost significantly more money. This is, we are getting a very good deal because we're able to learn from what other states have done and utilize that information. So other states, it was around 1.5 million to 1 million. We are only paying $800,000, and every dollar that we save will go back into the general fund. So this is something that is setting the framework so that next year we can ensure that we have a plan that follows people who are not offered retirement savings at work so that they can retire with dignity later.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thanks to the bill sponsors, and again, I probably didn't do a very good job in my preamble by thanking them for bringing the bill, because again, for decades, it's something that has been important to me. I have personally stood in front of hundreds and hundreds of organizations, businesses, not-for-profits, municipalities, stood in front of thousands, probably tens of thousands of their employees, and talked to them in group settings and one-on-one meetings about the importance of saving for retirement. So we are absolutely aligned in our goals. We know that Americans in general do not save enough for retirement. Now, the difference in my situation is that more often than not, the reason why we were having that conversation is because the employer already had a qualified plan of some kind. So, I'll absolutely concede that point. These are employers who already have a 401k plan, a simple IRA plan, 403b plan, something along those lines. But here's what's important about what happens in those meetings. When explaining those plans to employees, giving them education, offering at no cost to them one-on-one consultation, financial advisory services on why this is important, how the investments that are presented to them are extremely low-cost investments, how much they should be putting away for retirement to supplement Social Security, hoping that it's still around, and often even explaining to them that by not enrolling, they are giving up the opportunity to get what is, in essence, free money from the employer by way of a matching contribution. Employees, time and time again, will still not opt into the plan. And in these qualified plans where we have instituted automatic enrollments, and the only way that a payroll deduction doesn't happen for them is if they opt out, sadly, time and time again, we see employees opt out. So the problem that I have with the basic premise of the bill is that for this massive amount of money that we're going to spend, I think we could instead focus on going directly to employers who aren't offering a plan and educating them on how easy it is for them to set up their own low-cost plan without getting the government involved, without creating a new board, without spending nearly $1 million of taxpayer money. For some amount way less than that, we could put together an education campaign that goes to the employer to say, hey, did you know that at no cost to you, no administrative cost to you, you can set up a simple IRA program for your employees, assuming you have less than 100 employees. Or here's the cost nowadays, as the senator from El Paso County already mentioned, because we're in 2019, here's how affordable it is for you to set up your own 401k plan. Or even better, colleagues, to go directly to the citizens of Colorado and educate them as to how easy it is for them to set up their own IRA plan. Because in the decades that I've done this, I can probably count on one hand when we've talked to workers, employees, citizens, and explained to them how easy and affordable it is to set up their own IRA. I've almost never heard, well, I have one of these plans, but the problem is I just can't put in enough money. The government limits on IRAs are just too low for me. So if we were talking about a study here, colleagues, that was going to cost an amount that I think we would all agree is reasonable, we've all seen bills with studies in it. We've never seen one, not to my recollection, that cost nearly $1 million for a series of analyses. Why does government need to be involved in doing this if instead we can use an existing infrastructure that's already in place, IRA plans that already exist, simple IRA and 401k plans that already exist? If we just want to get the message out, we don't need to create more layers of government to do this. So I don't have any amendments, although I will say I'm disappointed again. I'm sure this wasn't the sponsors doing this. The drafters probably just put it in by way of habit to see a safety clause that even though we're going to be doing studies, and this is something that's going to be taking quite a while to implement, that we as a General Assembly hereby find, determine, and declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. That we can look each other in the eye and say that this bill truly is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. As always, colleagues, I know I sound like a broken record, but I would really implore you to consider using a petition clause in bills like this when the state's not on fire and it's just an issue that's important to you. So again, I commend the sponsors for bringing forward something that I couldn't agree with more. More work needs to be done in this area, but would encourage strongly a no vote on Senate Bill 173 and that we use existing infrastructures to solve this problem.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the comments from my colleague from Parker, and actually now his comments made me almost like want to support the bill. I'm going to take the transcription of his comments, send it to the state, and bill the state for $800,000. Good plan? Maybe not. Maybe I should say instead, don't vote for the bill.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 173. Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am here to speak to the bill, specifically to make sure that we all know what we're voting for. So, one of the, we're not, yes. So, one of the interesting pieces of this bill is that it forces every single employee to participate. Because on day one, when they take a job, out of their paycheck is immediately going to be deducted some money from their paycheck for savings. So with that automatic deduction, the employee taking their very first job on their very first day of work won't even know what has happened. This is going to hit low-income people especially hard. And that is because their discretionary income is so low. So this is a very regressive tax. The other piece about this bill is that it is a mandate on small business. We're going to burden businesses that have 5 employees or more to participate in this. So one of the things that I teach my kids is the way that you save more is plain and simple. If you want to teach people to save more, it's a matter of either earning more or spending less. So here we're setting a very poor example. By day one, we're going out and spending a whole bunch of money to set up this plan and evaluate this idea with nothing to show for it in the end. And then we're mandating that the employees spend at least that this new plan that we implement goes to investment companies that charge no more than 1%. Even that 1% is high compared to what you can find on the market. Low-wage employees already can play with apps on their phone and invest money through apps like Robinhood, Stock Trader, and other low-cost investments. The federal government and the state government already incentivize people to participate in savings plans through IRAs and other tax-deductible ventures. Okay. So, as I'm going to speak back to this one idea that one of the things that it hurts, the people that it hurts the worst are the people who are at the low income levels. And when they're at the low income levels, if they're making minimum wage, taking 1% out of their paycheck is going to be a bad thing. I'm going to have to ask for Senatorial 5 as I wait for my last amendment that's almost here.
The Senate will take a Senatorial 5. We are back. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L005?
Amendment L005, send one.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L005. L005 does one thing, and that changes the definition of employees who will be required to participate in this. Employees who are making the minimum wage, the people who are at the bottom of the rung, who can least afford to have money taken out of their paycheck, this is going to allow those people not to be forced into a plan that they don't want to be in.
The motion before the body is the adoption of L005. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the amendment is lost. The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 173. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The bill is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 180?
Senate Bill 180 by Senator Winter and Representative McCluskey concerning the creation of an eviction legal defense fund and in connection with making an appropriation.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 180.
And the committee reports?
I don't.
Judiciary and Appropriations, I believe.
Judiciary reports. And I move the appropriations and judiciary reports.
To the Judiciary report.
In judiciary, I actually don't think we did amendments there. Thank you. All right, thank you, sir, the good senator. Okay, so in the judiciary report, what we did is we made the reporting for these grants stronger to make sure that they were being awarded statewide and the demographics that they were being awarded to, and I encourage a yes vote on the judiciary report.
The motion before the body is the adoption of the Judiciary report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Judiciary report is adopted. To the Appropriations report.
Thank you. In appropriations, we made the appropriation for the fund.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Appropriations report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Appropriations report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last year in my county, there were nearly 45,000 evictions in Adams County alone. And when those folks are being evicted, over 90% of them have no one to represent them in court. Well, nearly all the time, the landlords or the rental owners have someone representing them in court. This is creating an unbalanced and unfair playing field. In fact, some of these people are being evicted for being a day late, for being $20 short. When someone is short because they paid for a medical emergency, they had to pay for a field trip, and they're short by a couple days, we shouldn't be evicting them without any support in the court system. So this sets up a fund that allows for nonprofits to distribute funds to even the playing field and allow those being evicted have legal representation. And I encourage a yes vote on Senate Bill 180.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 180. Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have voted no on Senate Bill 180, and I want to be clear about why this is. Senate Bill 180 creates a fund to pay for counsel for those who are being evicted. And that is laudable. It's a lot like our last bill and like a lot of other bills we do here. The question is, should government do that? Now, some of you may say, well, now hold on there, Bob. We pay for counsel for lots of different things. How is this different? Let me enumerate some of these things for which we pay for counsel. So the first one, of course, is for criminal defendants. And, you know, the seminal case that requires that, and it's required constitutionally, is Gideon versus Wainwright, Clarence Earl Gideon.
Senator Gardner, could we please keep the comments focused to the bill itself and not to other cases in which counsel is required?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, what I'm talking about is about where we do pay for counsel and comparing it to what's in the bill, where we are suggesting that we pay for counsel for those who are involved in a civil case. And so, you know, the constitutional requirement of Gideon versus Wainwright requires us to do that because it is a liberty interest. And So we have a state public defender system. And when the public defender has a conflict, we have the alternate defense counsel system. We provide counsel for those who are at risk of having their children taken from them, the parental rights issues, but likewise, that is a constitutional interest. Now, many people in my profession, I among them, I think almost without exception, many attorneys provide pro bono legal work and assist people, and we have a state bar foundation that does this, and we have the Legal Services Corporation in America that has various nonprofit organizations around the country in our communities that provides assistance to those who are being evicted. But this is something very different. This is now the government paying the attorney's fees for someone in a civil action. And sure enough, there are people who have difficulty affording an attorney. And again, I and others of my profession have volunteered our time and continue to do so, and I think I will probably do so till the day I die, because I think it's important. But I think it's inappropriate for the government to provide counsel in civil cases. And if we do it here, then where else should we do it? Because we've already heard that people may have difficulty getting counsel in employment cases. Wouldn't we be better to provide for attorney's fees and costs in instances where a landlord is in the wrong? That would make it much easier because attorneys would be more likely to take those cases. That's why we provide for attorney's fees and costs in cases. That's been incredibly successful in consumer protection legislation. It's been incredibly successful in fair debt collection practices. Why not do that so that rather than going into the pockets of Coloradans to pay for a lawyer for someone else, the cost would be borne by the party who was in the wrong. We could even shield tenants from having to pay fees to landlords, and we could simply have landlords pay these attorneys' fees and costs if they lost. But you know, there's an interesting thing. I mean, the proponent of the bill, the senator from Westminster, said, well, there are instances when people were $20 short in their rent. Well, the standard rent contract doesn't allow the landlord to prorate the days. You're required to pay the full rent in order to have an additional month. And if you don't pay the entire amount, then the landlord is not required to accept it, because they may well have a renter who's willing to pay that. Now, you might say, well, but we want to make it, you know, we want to help these tenants out who are being evicted. Well, I get it. I get it. But there are better mechanisms for providing counsel than requiring the taxpayers of Colorado to pay for someone else's attorney in a civil case. And if we go down the road of doing that, we're going to be here next year with someone saying, but we do that for eviction proceedings, so we should do it here. I mean, it's one thing to do it when someone has had their firearms taken away from them in violation of their Second Amendment rights. But I don't find in the Constitution of the state of Colorado or the Constitution of the United States a guarantee to an apartment, interestingly enough. Now, it could be that here in Denver in the next few weeks there might be an election over that, and that right might be extended. But it hasn't been extended in our Constitution, but neither the state or the federal Constitution. And because it has not, it seems inappropriate to be extending the right to an attorney, because that's really what we're doing. We're paying for an attorney. We're saying the state of Colorado will pay for your attorney if you can't pay for your attorney. And I'd really like to be paid, full employment for lawyers would be a good thing for all of us country lawyers, but I don't think it's good policy, and my constituents would think that it's very bad policy. I ask for a no vote on Senate Bill 180.
Senator Lundin. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L003?
Amendment L003, Senate Bill 180 by Senator Winter. I'm in the Judiciary Committee.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L003.
To the amendment.
This would clarify the precise outcomes qualifying nonprofits they're supposed to report. So adding more transparency to this. And the second change actually lowers the limit on how much funding as a percentage of all funds one nonprofit can receive to ensure that there's greater distribution of these funds to different nonprofits in different geographic locations serving different people. And I encourage a yes vote on L003.
Is there any discussion on L003? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L003. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L004?
Amendment L004 is number 180 by Senator Lundin. I'm in print bill page 4, line 22, strike.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate being recognized, and with this recognition, I'm going to withdraw my amendment.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 180. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the Title II, Senate Bill 188?
Senate Bill 188 by Senators Winter and Williams and Representatives Gray and Duran concerning the creation of a family and medical leave insurance program.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 188 lay over until Monday, April 22nd, 2019.
The motion before the body is to lay over Senate Bill 188 until Monday, April 22nd. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill will be laid over until Monday, April 22nd. Mr. Carpenter, Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we proceed out of order for purposes of bringing up Senate Bill 224.
The motion before the body is to proceed out of order in order to hear Senate Bill 224. All of those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, please read Senate Bill 224.
Senate Bill 224 by Senators Gonzalez and Finberg concerning the continuation of the regulated marijuana programs in connection with implementing recommendations contained in the 2018 census report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 224 and the Finance Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Finance report. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the Finance Committee report, we considered the bill and a number of amendments, and I ask for an aye vote.
The motion before the body is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Finance report is adopted. To the Appropriations report, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Appropriations Committee report.
to the report.
Thank you. We made an appropriation. It was awesome.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Senate Bill 224 is the sunset report bill for the medical and recreational marijuana codes programs. And this is important because this is still a relatively new industry in Colorado. It has evolved. I think in some ways when we started regulating the marijuana industry in Colorado, we made sure there were lots of guardrails. We made sure we protected ourselves given the conflict with federal law and state law. And so I think it is appropriate that we are looking at now that we know exactly what the industry is at this point in time, what it looks to be evolving to be in the future, and making sure the rules and regulations that we have in place are appropriate and allow the industry to thrive, allow patients, allow consumers to access the marketplace, and to do it in a way that is safe and helps Colorado continue to be a model for this industry.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It has been such an interesting process for me to participate in this sunset review alongside the Majority Leader, alongside so many stakeholders, and alongside the Department of Revenue and MED. And so with that, I move Senate Bill 224, and we have a number of amendments. And so
there is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read L029?
Amendment L029, Senate Bill 224. Amendment Bill page 1700 line 5, insert section 5 of Colorado Revised Statutes at 4411-107 as follows. 4411-107 marijuana employee designation. An employee of a licensee is not an agricultural worker unless the employee
Senator Gonzalez.
thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Carpenter, for being patient. I move Amendment L029.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment is very important because it does delineate the fact that marijuana employees are not agricultural workers unless the employee is a farm laborer as described in section 8-3-104 subsection 11. I ask for an aye vote.
The motion before the body is the adoption of L029. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L029 is adopted. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L030. Oh, sorry.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read Amendment L030?
Amendment L030, Senate Bill 220.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L030 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion on L030? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to describe it. This basically affirms there is a gray area right now in our statutes because given the discrepancy between state law and federal law, currently there is confusion within the community as to whether or not marijuana employees are subject to the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act. And so this amendment simply states if the National Labor if the National Labor Relations Board or a court rules that marijuana-related businesses are not covered by the NLRIA, then a marijuana business or marijuana-related business and its employees doing business in Colorado are covered by the Labor Peace Act. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion on Amendment L030? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L030. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L032?
Amendment L032, Senate Bill 224, Senator Gonzalez, amend the Finance Committee report.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L032 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion on Amendment L032? Senator Lundeen.
I will happily explain, Senator.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amendment L032 simply is a technical amendment to make a correction to our Finance Committee report. Instead of numbering 6, we're going to substitute it with the number 5. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L032. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L033?
Amendment L033, Senate Bill 224.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L033. Happy to explain it.
To the amendment.
Thank you. There is actually redundant. In committee, we actually moved an amendment to strike out redundant testing, and upon further review, we wanted to instead of using the word obsolete, we wanted to substitute the word redundant. And so this just tightens up that language from an amendment that was made in committee, and I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I would ask the bill sponsor for a little further clarification on L033. We are also in this language striking or replacing products with concentrate and contaminant with residual solvent. Can you speak to these other elements of the substitutions as well, please?
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what happens a lot of times is currently the way that things work is when raw product is being processed into a concentrate, it is tested at every single step of the process, and this the amendment that we moved in committee ensured that we eliminated some of the redundant testing. This amendment just ensures that we are speaking with specificity about the types of product that we are eliminating that redundant testing for.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L033. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Amendment L033 is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L039?
Amendment L039.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L039 and ask for an aye vote.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this amendment clarifies what the sales limits are for both medical centers as well as for retail stores. And so there has been confusion out in the community, and so we are seeking to clarify this language through this amendment. Specifically, I will point to lines 15 through 17, where it says, a physician recommendation for more than 2 ounces does not apply to the sale of medical marijuana concentrate or medical marijuana products. That is important because there are some patients who live in rural areas who need to travel to a dispensary to purchase that product, and this will allow them to continue to receive their medicine while also clarifying for MED the needs for regulations. I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And a question for the bill sponsors. It's my understanding that this particular amendment intersects with what was being referred to in committee as medical equivalencies. The recommendation from DORA was that, recommendation 6, it was direct the executive director to establish by rule and no later than July 1st, 2020, equivalency standards for medical marijuana products and concentrates. there was an effort to strike that or just remove that from the efforts of the executive director, and that was in contradiction to what, in fact, DORA had recommended. They had said, for all these reasons, the General Assembly should direct the executive director to establish equivalency standards for medical marijuana, and those standards should take into consideration the special needs of medical marijuana patients. Because the process to determine the proper standards merits considerable discussion and is likely to be protracted, the directive should require the standards be established no later than July 1st of 2020. I do not understand exactly how this amendment achieves that desired end from the good folks at the Department of Regulatory Affairs.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Gonzalez.
Request a senatorial 5 in order to be able to answer that question. Thank you.
We will stand in a senatorial 5.
Okay.
The motion before the body is the adoption of L039. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L040?
Amendment L040 was Senate Bill 224.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L040.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amendment L040 simply ensures that information related to I believe the application for a card does maintain confidentiality for the individual. And I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L040. All of those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L041?
Amendment L041, Senate Bill 224, Senator Gonzalez, amendment printed bill page 121, line 5. After store, insert, except that the medical marijuana or medical marijuana product is no longer being subject to the tracking system as the medical marijuana or medical marijuana
Senator
product.
Gonzalez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L041.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was a recommendation within the Sunset Review report to repeal the ability of medical research facilities to obtain medical marijuana without being licensed. However, what is actually taking place right now in reality actually works. And so there was broad consensus to strike recommendation 10 from the language. And so that's what Amendment L041 does. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L041. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L045?
Amendment L045, Senate Bill 224, Senator Gonzalez, amendment printed bill page 137, strike.
Senator Gonzalez.
Sorry, that's Amendment L45.
We're on L045.
I'm going to withdraw Amendment L045.
Amendment L045 has been withdrawn.
Now it's 47, which is the new 18.
There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L047?
Amendment L047, Senate Bill 224, Senator Gonzalez, amendment printed bill page 129, line 5.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L047.
To the amendment.
Amendment L047 is awesome, and I'm trying to figure out where my notes are.
Especially when you're part of a team.
Everything is awesome.
I believe we are approaching Senator Bridges' theme song.
I can't get into my notes. I can't pull my, where are my notes? It's not helpful. I can't get into my,
Will the clerk please continue reading Amendment L047?
Then printed bill page 121, line 5. After store, insert, except that the medical marijuana or medical marijuana product is no longer subject to the tracking system once the medical marijuana or medical marijuana product has been, 1, transferred to the medical research facility pursuant to section 25.1.5, 106.55B, or 2, transferred to
Senator Gonzalez.
thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to withdraw Amendment L047.
Amendment L047 is withdrawn. I have a sneaky suspicion there is an amendment on the desk. There's an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L035?
Amendment L035 to Senate Bill 224 by Senator Lundin. Amendment.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Earlier this evening, not that much earlier this evening, a little bit earlier this evening when the bill sponsors brought this, they described the progression we're making, the fact that we're evolving, we're understanding better, we're getting a little bit better handle on this experiment that is medical marijuana first and then recreational retail marijuana in the state of Colorado. Part of this evolution that we're going through is actually understanding what the heck's going on. And we still have a lot of question marks hanging over that particular question. And they are typically around what's the effect of THC? Does it lead to impairment at certain levels? How does this actually intersect? What is the intersectionality of THC and the modern Colorado citizen and resident and individual? So this particular amendment, which I would like to move, L035, I herewith move, is about doing that. Let's measure, let's find out, let's understand. What do the THC levels of regulated marijuana products or sold by medical marijuana businesses and retail marijuana businesses, what's it all about? The number of suicides associated with it, perhaps, the number of homicides, fatalities, first-degree assaults, psychiatric admissions. There is a growing body of information. In fact, I picked up a book just the other day and heard an author speak at length about his book that says this is happening, and it's happening as a result, in certain cases, as a result of retail marijuana. Let's understand. And so this simply says, in the process of this gigantic 200-page bill we have that says we care about knowing what's going on, it says, okay, fine. Let's look into some of the detail of this. That is what L035 is about, and I urge your support and acceptance of this amendment.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L035. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, no.
No!
And the amendment is lost.
Any other ones?
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the, Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those who are listening or care, marijuana concentrate is the fastest growing product category in cannabis industry, according to data. According to the data, consumer sales of cannabis concentrates will grow by 49% in the second half of 2018, reaching a total of $2.9 billion. It's the second fastest growing popular cannabis product after marijuana flower, which I think we just had a amendment on. Our first and foremost...
At some point this evening we did, yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
We did at some point this evening. You're
right. But first and foremost, our first responsibility is to protect the youth against long-term damage caused by marijuana. Concentrates in the hands of a giant publicly traded behemoth will necessarily increase the availability and use of from our minors. Active THC levels in marijuana concentrates have exploded since recreational marijuana was legalized, according to the Marijuana Enforcement Division. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment cautions against concentrates, admitting that they don't even know whether marijuana concentrates are safe. Teens who use and smoke marijuana could end up with lifelong brain damage. Everybody says, oh, marijuana is harmless, but that's not true. In a new study published by the American Journal of Psychiatry, researchers tested memory and reasoning in 3,800 high school students ages 13 to 17. They found marijuana affected their long-term cognitive abilities more than alcohol. And we all talk about down here about, how the minds of these young people aren't even formed until they're 23 years old. So we need to extend all these other, criminal penalties and civil penalties till somebody reaches 23 to 25 years old. But yet their minds aren't even settled. And we're saying the researchers have found that this is going to affect their long-term abilities. They found that their cognitive abilities, like I said, affected them more than alcohol. Researchers say that what's even more concerning is that when students stopped smoking and using pot, their memories did not get better. So therefore, Madam Chair, I have an amendment.
There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read amendment?
Does it matter? Yeah, whatever it is first. Okay. Yeah. What's happening? Jelly beans in my mouth. They want me to talk.
So will the clerk please read amendment L031?
Amendment L031, Symbol 224, Senator Cook.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In this lengthy bill, on page 154, well, let me back up. On page 152, it talks about persons that are prohibited from having licenses. And what this amendment does on...
Senator Cook, did you move the amendment?
I did not, but I will if you'd like.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L031.
Thank you. To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But on page 154, line 14, it says a publicly traded company is prohibited. What this amendment says that a publicly traded company that authorizes the sale of medical marijuana concentrate and retail marijuana concentrate is prohibited. And I'd ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Lundin. No, we are still on amendment L031. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of amendment L031. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, no. The noes have it, and the amendment is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read amendment L048?
Amendment L048, Symbol 224 by Senator Lundin. Amendment Print Bill, page 137, strike lines 15 through 27 and substitute for equivalency rules promulgated pursuant to subsection 44.10.2021C.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So back before the senatorial 5 that we took to try and sort something out, we were talking about, do we want to fly blind with regard to this issue, or do we actually want to know what's going on? And the good folks over at the Department of Regulatory Affairs, they said, no, don't fly blind. In fact, establish some equivalency standards for medical marijuana products and concentrates. They said the General Assembly should direct the Executive Director to establish equivalency standards for medical marijuana, and those standards should take into consideration, let's be sensible about this, let's make sure we're meeting the medical needs of individuals. It should take into account the special needs of medical patients. And they identify the process might take some time and effort, and so we should get on the stick and get it going and get it done by July 1st of 2020. That's all this amendment does, is it acknowledges the hard work of the good folks over at the Department of Regulatory Affairs, and it says let's establish some equivalencies so we've got a matrix, a basic understanding of this many buds means this much THC has this effect, etc. That is the sort of work that they need to figure out at the scientific level, and that's what this amendment would add into this sunset bill as per the recommendation of DORA. I encourage your support and ask for an aye vote to L048. Did I ever move it? I don't know if I did. I move L048.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of amendment L048. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendment is lost. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body, Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Madam Chair, I have to say I don't know what all of that was about. My concern with this bill is really what happened in the Finance Committee and the Finance Committee report. In the Finance Committee, and the report's been adopted, but I am raising this concern because it is now part of the bill. An issue is addressed that arises out of Amendment 64, and it has to do with Amendment 64 saying that one cannot engage in the open and public consumption of marijuana. And that's a constitutional restriction. The only trouble was and is that open and public is not defined in Colorado law. Now, 2 years ago, my first session in the Senate, I was engaged in multiple conference committees to try to give definition to the term open and public consumption of marijuana. And every time it broke down, and it did not happen 2 years ago, over the what about my front porch. And there seemed to be general agreement that the smoking of marijuana in front of small children was not a good idea. It is not something we wanted to permit in Colorado. But there also seemed to be this issue that people thought, well, I can do anything I want on my private property. It's my private property. Well, my retort to that is, no, you can't do anything you want on your private property. If your front porch is within sight of the street, you can't stand out there naked. But what we have here in the Finance Committee report is an attempt to do that. Now, take a close look at page 2 of the Finance Committee report, and it's good as far as it goes. It tries to give definition to something that we really need to have happen. And it says, open or openly means observable by the public or a substantial number of the public. So that's good. And then it defines public or publicly. It says public or publicly means a place to which the public or a substantial number of the public has access without restriction, including but not limited to streets, highways, transportation, facilities, places of amusement, parks, playgrounds, or other, and the common areas of buildings and other facilities. So, good. But then, the definition says open in public or openly and publicly does not include any activity occurring on private residential property by the occupant or his or her guest. Well, I care as deeply about private property rights as anyone, and what you do inside your home, what you do in your backyard that is not observable by substantial numbers of the public is perfectly fine. And if you happen to live in a location, a rural location, where your front porch is set back 150 feet from the road, then I think you're fine. But we have many, many, many residential areas in the state of Colorado, as is the case around the country, where you have row housing, you have small front yards, you have a front porch that is no more than 10 or 15 feet from the sidewalk, with lots of small children riding their bicycles, their skateboards, and any number of other things within sight of someone standing on their front porch smoking a joint. It belies common sense to have the first two paragraphs of this definition and then say, oh yeah, but if you want to stand on the front porch with your buddy while all of the 5-year-old children from next door are racing up and down or standing at the property line because that's where their treehouse is, that's okay. It isn't okay, members. And so I have an easy fix to this. It's a very easy fix.
There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L049?
Amendment L049.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what L049 does is amend the Finance Committee report to simply strike those lines that creates this complete safe haven on private residential property. Now, that doesn't mean you're not protected on private residential property in general, in your home, in your backyard, if you're sitting on your front porch behind a screen, if you have a hedge, but it takes away this ability to sit on your front porch while all of the neighborhood children walk by, skate by on their skateboard 10 or 15 feet away watching you smoke your joint. This is a common sense definition. It is a definition we ought to adopt. And so I urge your support. If I didn't already move L049, I move it and urge your support of L049.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of L049. All of those in favor say aye. All of those opposed, no. The amendment is lost. Majority Leader Fenberg. The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 224. All of those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. And the bill is adopted. We'll take a senatorial 5. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over the remainder of the calendar until tomorrow, Friday, April 19th, 2019.
The motion before the body is to lay over the remainder of the calendar until tomorrow, Friday, April 19th. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report. It was close. I was like,
The Senate will come back to order.
we're holding. We're holding. No. We've got cows.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, committee begs the report setting serious and following text bills being seconded. There makes following recommendation: 175 is amendment symbol 215 is amendment symbol 156 amendment symbol 96 amendment symbol 173 is amendment symbol 180 is amendment symbol 224 is amendment passed second reading order. Place count for the reading of final passage. Symbol 1205 passed second reading order. Advised place count for the reading of final passage. Symbol 191 symbol 198 symbol 218 symbol 231 symbol 107 symbol 11189. Senate Bill 225 later went until 41919 retaining the place on the calendar. House Bill 1210 Senate Bill 188 later went until 42219 retaining the place on the calendar.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read amendment 001 to the committee of the whole report?
Committee of the whole amendment 001
Senator
to
Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I withdraw 001.
Amendment 001 will be withdrawn. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read the amendment. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 002. This amendment was striking the prohibited. Oh, he just withdrew it. Oh, my bad.
There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read the amendment.
Committee of the whole amendment 001.
There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read amendment 003.
Committee of the whole amendment 003 to Senate Bill 96.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move 003 on 096. This gives us another chance at the climate change. You know, it came up earlier, and I felt that what's at stake down here is $430 million expansion for Everest. I do represent Pueblo County and the surrounding area, and I think this is a serious issue. And I would put this amendment in to actually set up an interim committee study regarding collection of greenhouse gas data to show that rural Colorado is a factor of the state and that we can actually make a movement toward making a study and letting people know that this is not all about Denver and Boulder.
Is there further discussion? Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. As someone from rural Colorado and not writing a bill from Denver and Boulder, ask for no vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none.
Yes, I represent rural Colorado,
Crowder's
and this is a good amendment. This gives people an out.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the body is.
This is not a joke. This is
Senator
serious.
Crowder is recognized.
Go ahead. I'm done.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Amendment 003 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Donovan, Moreno, Gonzalez, Zenzinger, Story, Todd, Bridges, Lee, Pedersen, Foote, the Majority Leader, Priola, Danielson, Winter, Court, Rodriguez, Fields, Janal, Williams.
Cindy, who's next?
Please have the president. With 15 ayes, 20 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, that amendment is lost. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment 002.
Committee of the Whole, Amendment 002 to Senate Bill 173. Senator Woodward move to amend report of committee of the whole.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move 173, Cal Amendment number 2. This, if you recall, this bill will ultimately require that all employees have money automatically withheld from their paycheck. I'm asking this amendment would allow minimum wage people to be excluded until they earn more money before they have money withheld from their check. I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill studies 4 options. We don't know which one we will pursue yet. I ask for a no vote on this count.
Question before the body is the adoption of Amendment 002, the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Winter, Danielson, Court, Moreno, Lee, Gonzalez, Zenzinger, Foote, Williams, Bridges, the Majority Leader, Rodriguez, Story, Todd, Pedersen, Janal, Fields, Donovan. Please add the President. With a vote of 16 ayes, 19 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, that amendment is lost. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment 002.
Committee of the Whole, Amendment 002 to Senate Bill 2.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 002 to Senate Bill 224.
To the amendment.
For an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a no vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is adoption of Amendment 002, the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? The Majority Leader, Senators Donovan, Zenzinger, Gonzalez, Lee, Moreno, Janal, Todd, Story, Winter, Bridges, Foote, Danielson, Court, Pedersen, Williams, Rodriguez. Please add the President. Please add Senator Fields as a no vote. With a vote of 16 ayes, 19 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that amendment is lost. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment 003.
Committee of the Whole, Amendment
Senator Lundin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cow Amendment 003.
To the amendment.
So members, this is not going to happen very often. Lundin standing in the well saying, let's listen to the regulators. Let's listen to the Department of Regulatory Affairs. They came to us with a sunset review, an enormous sunset review over an enormous 200-page bill, and they said, here's a few very important things we should do. We hit the pause button in the Finance Committee because Republicans and Democrats said, you know what? That review is a good idea. That particular recommendation was recommendation number 6. We should probably do that. And the folks who were trying to run things through at lightning speed on this enormous bill said, no, just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But the Republicans and Democrats on that committee said, no, hit the pause button. We do, in fact, want to, and here's the core, here's the root, here's what we're talking about. We do want to understand what people are ingesting into their systems. It's about equivalency. And it would simply say that the executive director of the Marijuana Enforcement Division should establish the equivalency of 1 ounce of medical marijuana flower in various marijuana products, including concentrates, etc., of course, would be assumed. When establishing those equivalency standards, the state licensing authority shall take into consideration the medical needs of medical marijuana patients. This makes sense. If you've got a high metabolism in this product that is herbal in nature, you might need more of the dosage. That's fine. You should be allowed to get more of that dosage, but you should know what's going on. Let's establish some equivalency, is what the regulators said. And here it is. Catch this on videotape. Lundin is saying, let's do what the regulators say we should do. I urge your support of this amendment for the safety of the people of Colorado and the understanding of what's going on with this industry that is still experimental in its nature. Let's understand, what is the equivalency?
Is there further discussion? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, the Marijuana Enforcement Division, my understanding is, The language we adopted in the bill was a compromise, and the regulator accepted that compromise.
Is there
Asking for a no vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 003, the committee whole report. Are there any no votes? The majority leader, Senator Gonzalez, Senators Williams, Winter, Bridges, Moreno, Lee, Pedersen, Donovan, Foote, Zenzinger, Fields, Janal, Todd, Story, Danielson, Rodriguez, Court. Please add the president. With a vote of 16 ayes, 19 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that amendment is lost. There's an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment 004.
Committee Whole Amendment 004, Senate Rule 224, Senator Gardner moved to
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, colleagues, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and listen to me. I could easily talk for 20 minutes. I am not going to. This is an important issue. The Finance Committee report in the marijuana bill has a definition of open and public consumption, and open and public consumption of marijuana is prohibited, but it has not been defined, even though that was used in Amendment 64. The Finance Committee report, the first two paragraphs are very good, and they have good definitions of the word open and the word public. And then it says, but anytime you're on your private property, it is not open and public consumption. Now the problem with that is, I mean, it's very appealing, but the problem with that is if you have a front yard that is about 10 feet by 10 feet and the sidewalk is right out there and the 5-year-old children are up and down the sidewalk, it is not okay, in my view, to consume marijuana standing on your front porch. That should not be allowed. It is not good for our neighborhoods. It is not good for our children. We did this 2 years ago in conference committee over and over and couldn't get there. This would get us there. I ask for an aye vote. Please don't be the one that allows marijuana to be consumed in front of our children. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a no vote. Members, the situation that was just described is likely covered by other local ordinances, such as a nuisance law. If you are creating a nuisance in a neighborhood, that would already be allowed to be enforced and regulated by local enforcement. I urge a no vote.
Senator Gardner.
I regret to have to take the time. It is not covered by the nuisance law. It would make the prosecution very difficult, because the first thing a person would say was, I was engaged in a legal activity and it's made legal by this particular bill. That is, I'm sure that the majority leader believes that to be true. I believe it to be untrue and incorrect. I ask for an aye vote.
Question before the body. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of Amendment 004. Are there any, to the committee of the whole, are there any no votes? Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Donovan, Williams, Court, Winter, Bridges, Danielson, Lee, Moreno, Janal, Pedersen, Todd, Story, Fields, Gonzalez, Zenzinger, Rodriguez, please add the president. With a vote of 17 ayes, 18 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that amendment is lost. There's an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Committee of the Whole Amendment 001.
Committee of the Whole Amendment 001, Senate Bill 96, Senator Crowder moved to amend the report.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to give you one more chance at this one. Put yourself in the.
Would the
put
would the
yourself
good
in-
senator from Alamosa please move the amendment?
I move 001 on SCO 96.
To the amendment, Senator.
Put yourself in the place of a boardroom for a minute. You're in a boardroom, you're thinking about a $430 million expansion at the steel mill. You have alternatives. You can either keep it in Pueblo or you can move it to Tennessee. Colorado just passed the oil and gas, which would be very restrictive for the sales of Everest. So here we go we got 1,050 employees there at the steel mill, and I represent all of Pueblo rural county. I have a lot of constituents that work at the steel mill. So we have this boardroom that's set up one day, and they're discussing about this expansion. With the way Colorado's going in opposition to business, should they take a chance on that $430 million expansion in Pueblo, or should they take it to Tennessee where they're very business friendly? You make the call. Ladies and gentlemen, this would be, we're talking about 1,050 employees at stake here. This is an important issue for rural Colorado. I would ask for your support on this.
Is there further discussion? Senator Donovan.
This bill does not close down businesses. I ask for a no vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Crowder.
The perception of the bill does. That's exactly what it does. The perception of the direction of the state of Colorado is what's driving business away. It's not bullshit either. It's not. This is serious business down there, lady. And I ask for your support on this.
Is there further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the question before the committee is the adoption of Amendment 001 to the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Foote, Majority Leader Todd, Story, Williams, Bridges, Winter, Danielson, Lee, Moreno, Janal, Patterson, Fields, Rodriguez, Court, Zenzinger, Gonzalez, Donovan, Priola. Please add the president. With the vote of 15 ayes, 20 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that amendment is lost. Question before the body is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, the question before the body is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Lundin, Woodward. With a vote of 33 ayes, 2 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 175 is amended. Senate Bill 215 is amended. Senate Bill 156 is amended. Senate Bill 096 is amended. Senate Bill 173 is amended. Senate Bill 180 is amended. Senate Bill 224 is amended. Passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 1205 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the counter for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 191, Senate Bill 198, Senate Bill 218, Senate Bill 231, Senate Bill 107, House Bill 1189, Senate Bill 225 laid over until 4/19/2019 and replacing their place on the calendar. House Bill 1210 Senate Bill 188 laid over until 4/22 and retaining their place on the calendar. Announcements. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Appropriation Committee, I just want to make note that Senate Bill 236 and 246 were added to your calendar. Thank you.
Mr. Majority Leader. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the desk is going to prepare for tomorrow, which will occur in a few moments. Tomorrow will occur in a few moments is what I'm saying. Mr. President, I move that the Senate adjourn until 12:30 a.m. Friday, April 19th, 2019. They need 30 minutes.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will be adjourned until 12:30 on Friday, 4/19.